Never saw such execution in my life. The Philippines did stand their ground heroically, contesting.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Your girl is back with another interesting video I know you will all love to watch. In today's video, I'm going to be reacting on this particular video titled The Dark Truth Behind Filipino and American Relationship. You all know that the Americans and the Philippines has been in close relationship for decades now. But before I proceed with this particular video, if you're watching me for the first time, you love my reaction videos, you want to see more videos coming from the Philippines, subscribe. Let's become one big family, okay? Don't forget to click the bell icon so you don't get to miss out each time I bring videos like this your doorstep. Without wasting much of your time, guys, let's watch this video together and react on it. I really want to know the truth behind the relationship between American and the Philippines. Let's watch it together and react on it, okay?
When you think of the Philippines in the context of World War II, you might see American General Douglas MacArthur marching onto that beach on Leyte with an avenging force of American and Filipino soldiers in tow. If we fix our scope on this phase of the war, namely the 1944 to 1945 Philippines campaign, we might surmise that the Americans were fighting for the liberation of their Filipino brothers, whose islands had been subjected to a sadistic Japanese occupation since mid-1942. Sure, a great many Americans and Filipinos fought side by side against a common enemy during the Second World War, but that did not mean they were stalwart friends. In fact, the United States and the Philippines have, to say the least, a rather turbulent history. In this video, we shed some light on Filipino-American relations in the early years of the 20th century, focusing on American and Filipino atrocities committed in the Philippine-American War. 1565 to 1898, the Philippines were under the thumb of the Spanish Empire. From August 1896 to June 1898, Filipino revolutionaries fought against Spanish in what was known as the Philippine Revolution or Tagalog War. Concurrently, the Spanish Empire and the Americans were at each other's throats, so it was only natural that the Americans involved themselves in the conflict taking place in the Philippines, providing support to the revolutionaries. After the Filipinos and Americans defeated the Spanish, the US and Spain signed a treaty in Paris, ending the Spanish-American War. This treaty stipulated that Spain had to give the Philippines to the US. To sweeten the deal, the US gave Spain $20 million, essentially buying the Philippines from Spain. If the Filipinos thought the Spanish sucked, they were in for a surprise. After the Spanish defeat, Filipino revolutionary leader Emilio Aguinaldo established the first Philippine Republic, with himself as president. But the Americans were not having a bar of it. They'd already mailed the check. This understandably caused a bit of tension, and by February 1899, a full-blown war had broken out between the Filipinos and, in quotation marks, the new proprietors of the Philippine Islands. This was the Philippine-American War. America's game plan with the Filipinos was one of, quote, benevolent assimilation, because those two words clearly go hand in hand. According to Andrew Clem's article, The Filipino Genocide, published in the journal Historical Perspectives, the occupying Americans were prejudiced against the Filipinos, dehumanizing them with racial slurs. In Clem's words, the ideas about racial differences were ideally suited for the goal of annexing the Philippines. The United States needed to either bring the Filipinos into the fold or remove them from the islands. One of the more benevolent ways the Americans brought them into the fold was through education, with white teachers, mostly women, coming to the Philippines to educate the next generation in American ways. When the fighting started, however, the US took off its gloves. Funnily enough, it was General Douglas MacArthur's daddy, Arthur MacArthur, who first marched American troops against the forces of the Philippine Republic. This was in the 1899 Battle of Manila, waged on the 4th and 5th of February between 19,000 US troops and as many as 40,000 Filipino troops. The Americans won, and it was raw brutality from that point forward, with Filipino bolo knives, spears, and bows going up against the fearsome US war machine. The Philippine Republic learnt quite quickly, however, that a conventional approach wouldn't work. Instead, they opted to fight a guerrilla war. This bogged the conflict right down, as it was now harder for the US to distinguish combatants from civilians. Soon, they stopped trying to distinguish them. American Brigadier General Jacob H. Smith's instructions to one of his officers summarized America's new war strategy. I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better it will please me. I want all persons killed who are capable of bearing arms in actual hostilities against the United States. And if you are wondering, the Brigadier General deemed anyone over the age of 10 capable of bearing arms. More conservative estimates suggest that between 200,000 and 250,000 died from violence, famine, and disease, while some sources put that figure as high as 1 million. Many of these people died in American concentration camps, encircled by free fire zones, which were aptly nicknamed suburbs of hell. According to the aforementioned Clem, the deadline surrounding the camp kept all the natives in check and prevented them from leaving on the threat of death. Outside of these disease-ridden camps, American troops forced Filipinos to evacuate their homes or watch them burn. In the words of one E.D. Furnham of the Washington Regiment, we burned hundreds of houses and looted hundreds more. This was apparently an initiative to counter guerrilla warfare, as was torturing captured men for intel. One method of torture was unsurpassed in its infamy during the Philippine-American War. This was the dreaded water cure. A.F. Miller of the 32nd Volunteer Infantry Regiment explained this method of torture in a letter later published in the Omaha World Herald. Lay them on their backs, a man standing on each hand and each foot. Then put a round stick in the mouth and pour a pail of salt water in the mouth and nose. And if they don't give up the information, pour in another pail. They swell up like toads. I'll tell you, it is a terrible torture. Some American troops believed their actions were justified, however. Brutality in answer to brutality. According to a letter written by an anonymous soldier from New York, last night one of our boys was found shot and his stomach cut open. Immediately orders were received to burn the town and kill every native in sight. About 1,000 men, women, and children were reported killed. I am probably growing hard-hearted, for I am in my glory when I can sight my gun on some dark skin and pull the trigger. The aforementioned Brigadier General Jacob H. Smith supposedly gave his I want no prisoners order in retaliation to a Filipino atrocity as well. On the 28th of September 1901, in the town of Balangiga on Samar Island, a force of Filipino civilians attacked and massacred 48 American troops who had been stationed there relatively peacefully for over a month. According to Joseph L. Schott, author of The Ordeal of Samar, the native laborers suddenly turned on the soldiers and began chopping at them with bolos, picks, and shovels. The mess tents, filled with soldiers peacefully at breakfast, had been one of the prime targets. Dean C. Worcester, the Secretary of the Interior of the Philippine Islands, depicted one especially gruesome atrocity committed by the Filipinos in his book, The Philippines, Past and Present. One American prisoner had been buried in the ground with only his head projecting. His mouth had been propped open with a stick, a trail of sugar laid to it through the forest, and a handful thrown into it. Millions of ants had done the rest. With both sides committing atrocities such as those few we discussed, among countless more, we can safely say that the Philippine-American War won by the US in July 1902 left a bad taste in everyone's mouths. It would ultimately take a world war to push the Philippines' struggle for independence over the line, but that war, namely World War II, was still some 37 years away. Those in-between years weren't a walk in the park, and there's plenty of history in there to bring to light, such as the bloody Moro Rebellion, which we may just cover in a future video. For now, a quote from one F.A. Blake, a Californian Red Cross worker who found himself in the Philippines during the Philippine-American War. "I never saw such execution in my life. The Philippines did stand their ground heroically, contesting every inch, but proved themselves unable to stand the deadly fire of our well-trained and eager boys in blue."
This video is indeed interesting to watch. Honestly, a lot of things has indeed happened in the past. People really pay dearly for the kind of life we are living today. This video is so educating, it's packed with a lot of information our generation need to know about what happened to our foreparents, what happened in the past, how they got their independence. It's so terrifying. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's have a conversation down there. See you all on my next video. Bye.